What is Job Corps? It's one of the biggest programs in the country helping low-income young people get job training, housing, food, and a real path to a paycheck. We're talking about teens and also 20-somethings who did not finish high school or cannot afford college. Job Corps gives them a real shot at a paycheck. Many of these jobs are in the trades: electrician, dental assistant, auto mechanic. Job Corps has trained and educated over 2 million people since 1964.
When programs like these shut down, people only see it as irrelevant and insignificant, but there are real people being affected. Let's get into what's really going on.
Remember when Trump said he wanted to take money from universities like Harvard and give it to trade schools? Well, over the weekend, he shut down Job Corps, the country's biggest trade school, leaving thousands of students without a job and many without housing. Job Corps is a federally funded, free residential education and job training program for low-income people ages 16 to 24. Not only does it provide residential services, but it also provides food, clothing, healthcare, counseling, social skills training, parenting classes, and other support services. This is exactly the kind of thing the federal government should be doing. Of its 25,000 current students, more than 4,500 of them were homeless or foster care youth, and now these young people have nowhere to go. Why? Because Trump wants to use the money from this program to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. This decision doesn't just screw over students, it screws over you too, because the job training these students are receiving is critical for your community. Nearly 20% of the Job Corps facilities were training students for jobs in renewable energy, putting them on the fast track for jobs that literally build out our clean energy future. These are people who could be installing solar panels or rewiring homes, the ones ensuring Americans stay globally competitive. Many other students were training in healthcare, construction, and IT. There's already a shortage of these kinds of workers, but what do businesses and communities do when the country's biggest trade school is no longer training them? From an economic standpoint, this is frustrating, but when you hear the stories from students that are being impacted, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Young people who felt like they had nothing to look forward to, no high school diploma, nowhere to live, nobody with resources to help them get on their feet, saw this program as a gateway to success. And now not only is that opportunity being taken away, but many of these students are being evicted with nowhere to go. If you're as angry about the situation as I am, go to SaveJobCorps.com to learn more.
Well, Donald and his administration got rid of Job Corps. It's a program that helps poor kids and young men and women to get job training. And a lot of times it puts them in, it's like an apprenticeship basically. And my uncle was actually in Job Corps, and he swears by it. He said he wouldn't be the man he was today if it wasn't for Job Corps. And he was a young, white, rural, poor kid. I mean, my grandparents had nothing, and it was a huge help for him. But I'm going to show you a news clip of what's actually happening, and then I'm going to show you some articles of what the Trump administration said would happen.
Where are you going to go?
I don't know. I tried making a few calls, trying to figure out something, but as of so far, there's nothing that's solid ground.
18-year-old Cameron is dazed. His son, reality, he has no place to live. Where are your parents?
One is in jail, the other is dead.
He lived at Detroit Job Corps on Detroit's west side, a career training facility for young people. A sad scene. Friday afternoon, dozens lugged garbage bags full of their belongings, some into their parents' trunks, and others, well, they didn't have anywhere to go.
The staff, they had us go to the wreck at about 1:30, and they broke the news to us, and they had us go to the dorms, pack our stuff.
So let's look at who's in Job Corps. The ages are 16 to 24, men and women. The average age is 19. They're from disadvantaged backgrounds, debilitating environments, and they are in need of education and training. And as you can see here, 59% male, 77% lack the high school diploma or equivalent, 75% are minority groups, 50% are African American. Now let's look at what they said was going to happen to these people. They said they were planning a pause and an orderly transition for student, staff, and local communities, and the pause would occur by June 30th. They are actually closing these facilities down right now and kicking people out, as you could see. And then Lori Chavez comes out and says they are ensuring participants are supported through this transition and connected with resources they need to succeed as we evaluate the program's possibilities. No, they didn't. They booted these people out with nowhere to go. I mean, there's homeless 17, 18, 19-year-olds who are now out on the streets instead of getting job training. And this is why MAGA is full of shit. Because this should be MAGA. These are people that are Americans that need help. And they are trying. They're not out selling drugs. They're trying to get job training and be better people. And, of course, Trump and his admin had to shut it down because it's made up of minorities and poor people who they do not give a shit about. 20 years of pull yourselves up by the bootstraps finally coming true. And from the videos I've seen, it can hit a Trump voter straight in the face and they'll still give this mother an A or a B because they are in a cult. This is why I can't stand these people.
They want young adults and minors ages 16 to 24 to be homeless because that's what's going to happen. Job Corps is scheduled to end 99 facilities by June 30th, which will leave young adults and minors ages 16 to 24 who don't have a place to go. They will be homeless. They are all up my FYP right now, showing themselves having to pack with nowhere to go. A lot of people don't even know what Job Corps is. It is an organization that is designed, it's almost like college, but it allows ages 16 to 24 young adults and minors to get skills. Skills for being an automotive technician, trade skills, being an electrician or being a plumber. And essentially, they live there, they live on campus, they build a community, they are paid, it's very little wages, but they can also utilize financial aid for their material and for their everyday living necessities and expenses. And now they're just going to take it away. They're going to take it away because they want low-income people to perish. That's what they want. That's what they want. And yes, there's a lot of people of color who depend on Job Corps. Black, brown, and there are some that are white, low-income individuals who don't have anywhere to go, who won't have anywhere to go. They are packing, they are crying, they are losing their family, essentially, and they're losing their resources. And I know people are going to say, oh, you're depending on the government again. Depending on the government, not so much. They are utilizing the resources provided. What is so different about Job Corps than going to college and getting financial aid and getting a Pell Grant? The only difference is that when they get out of that, they are going to have a job. They're going to have a trade skill. Y'all complain nobody wants to do this work and nobody wants to work. Now you're taking away the only people who will be trained to do said work. You are fucking idiots. I promise you that. Whoever voted this way, kick rocks barefoot, bro.
So the big news that liberals are pissed about today is that Donald Trump is eliminating the Job Corps. Now,
yeah, and you should be too, Joe. Like, y'all always are claiming that you want more people working in the trades. Well, that's exactly what Job Corps does. It gets more people in the trades. It helps people get their high school degrees and helps them get trained in a vocation like being a plumber, electrician, or a sawyer. I have a brother who went through Job Corps and became a plumber. And like, yeah, his graduation rate isn't great, but it gives a lot of people who have no other options a second goddamn chance, and it's a good thing. That's something conservatives, if you actually had the values y'all claim you fucking should want improved, not eliminated. But let's be real, you never cared about getting somebody into the trades or anything like that. That's just something you fucking beat over the heads of people to try to eliminate help for them going to fucking college. Y'all don't care about getting people into trades, getting them a second education, or any of that. So thanks for showing who the fuck really are.
When they tell you that we need to increase the number of kids going into trades, they're lying to you. When they tell you that we need to get kids into good paying jobs so that they can be contributing members of society, they're lying to you. And why I say that is because the Department of Labor just shut down Job Corps. And if you don't know what Job Corps is, it's a program for at-risk youth ages 16 to 24 that provides dorm-style housing, provides your meals, and it helps you get your GED if you don't have one, and it gives you a year-long training program so that when you graduate from the program, you have a certification in a trade and can go out there and get a job, and they help you get a job. They also help you secure housing, childcare, whatever you need to be a stable human after you graduate the program. They've removed all funding, all of it, across the country, 40,000 at-risk youth. And the reason it upsets me so deeply is because do you know who makes up a lot of Job Corps participants? Aged out foster youth who have nowhere else to go because they're kicked out of foster care. They don't have housing, don't know where their next meal's coming from. Only 50% of them have a high school diploma. And so what Job Corps offers is a lifeline for kids with nowhere else to go. it at least gets me a roof over my head, it gets me food, it gives me a community and friends, and it gives me an opportunity for the future. I can get my degree, I can get my license, I can get my certification to go into the trades. So when they're telling you they're just cutting all these budgets because we need to focus more on kids getting trained in the trades, they're lying to you. They're lying, because if they actually did care about that, they would put the effort into programs like Job Corps. Job Corps is not a perfect program. I can outright tell you there's a lot of problems that need to be addressed. It's an outdated program in a lot of ways. There's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that really prevents the programs from being as successful as they could be. There are issues, but instead of fixing issues, they're just getting rid of programs. Do you know what's happening to the 40,000 kids who are in Job Corps? For a lot of them, they're homeless tomorrow. They have nowhere else to go. This was their lifeline. They signed up for a year-long program to live in a dorm with strangers, to eat your meals with strangers, to go to work every single day and train for a job, because they had hope that this would give them somewhere to go, and it's gone. And I don't think enough people are realizing the impact of this, especially for former foster youth. It's just one program, but it's one of many. You're cutting Medicaid, you're cutting food stamps, you're cutting housing opportunities, and you're cutting job training. Where do you want these kids to go? I mean, honestly, where do you want them to? They have no family. For most of them, they don't have ID, they don't have a car, they don't have job training. Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do? And I know the answer, and I don't want to say the answer because it's wrong, and it's not what we should be doing as a country. We're the wealthiest nation on earth. There's zero reason why we shouldn't offer an opportunity for kids who want to be trained for a job, to give them that opportunity to do that.
My last lunch at Job Corps. This will be this is beef stew with potatoes and bell peppers, rice, and mixed vegetables. Lemonade with lemon slices. My salad contains chickpeas, cranberries, cheese, and onions. Of course, lettuce and croutons. Thousand Island dressing. Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is, okay? They're closing Job Corps because they want young adults who don't come from money to either join the military, go into crime so that they can go into prison where they can be worked for free under the 13th Amendment, or if neither of those, be so desperate that they take terrible jobs with terrible wages and no worker protections and have a massive fear of organizing. Like, I don't really see what else the option could be, because Job Corps is not a huge drain on the U.S. budget. It's like a drop inside of a drop inside of a drop inside of the bucket. You know, it's tiny, and it's about as much of a net good of a social program as you can imagine. Job Corps' number one function is to ensure that people who come from certain zip codes and from households with a certain income don't end up on government benefits later. It's like how the number is something like, for every dollar that we spend with the IRS, we get like $6 back. Like, I would be surprised if Job Corps is not similar in terms of the ROI. This is done for nothing more than cruelty and ripping the rug out from underneath hard-working kids. This is evil.
You're saying Job Corps has a 38.6% graduation rate, so it's a waste of money? The average community college has a graduation rate of like 34% over 3 years and 28% over 4 years. Mind you, these are institutions that offer 2-year degrees. So Job Corps was cheaper, more effective, and more accessible than your average community college, especially to like a homeless teen. Tell me again how it's a waste of money. Because you got a flag in your bio, I think we've been wasting a lot more money on, if you just want to really get into it.
They're getting rid of Job Corps because no one's joining the military. And rightfully so. Like, who the actually wants to go and fight for a country that's not fighting for them? At this point specifically in time in America. Like, that's just not what people want to do. And I feel like initially they got rid of DEI because they thought it was going to make a bigger splash and it was going to affect a certain amount of, marginalized groups. But it didn't actually do that, and it affected other people. And so now their next effort is like, oh, well, we'll just get rid of Job Corps because that actually is something that benefits, marginalized groups and is helping them. And so in doing that, I don't know if they're thinking like, oh, if we get rid of this, well, now these people will think that they have to join the military and fight for this country that's not fighting for them. But like, I just don't see people joining the military, especially with the knowing that this country doesn't really give a about what is going on in their lives. And like, the country is not fighting for them at all. So then what would be the point of that? Because even if they did a draft, it would still be like, well, we're not going to go. And then what is the government going to do? Say that everyone is now a prisoner because they decided not to get drafted into wars? Like, and okay, if everyone's now in prison because they didn't want to go fight for the war, then you still have no soldiers. So like, this is just not a smart decision on their end. Like, were they even thinking? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. That's crazy.
It's crazy how they got rid of Job Corps and then immediately opened up more listings for military recruitment positions. That's really, really interesting because I'm not going to lie. It sounds like something the government would do. They would take away the funding for, self-sufficiency for young adults, because that's what Job Corps was, basically to teach young adults how to acquire skills, trades, certifications, degrees, diplomas, things of that nature, and force them into a route of either possibly unemployment, likelihood of getting into trouble, crime, or joining the military. Yeah, that's not weird at all. Like I said, I just think that's kind of strange how the timing works with that. Job Corps was literally, like I said, something that a lot of people have used to become nurses, CNAs, truck drivers. It's just terrible.
All right, so I just heard the news. Donald Trump's going after Job Corps, shutting down Job Corps nationwide that work with contractors, I guess, affecting the lives of tens of thousands of students. And I just got to start off saying I'm a Job Corps success story. I went to Job Corps. If it wasn't for Job Corps, I don't know where the it would be, because I had no skills coming out of high school. I had a high school diploma and no social skills and nothing. I had nothing. I grew up in a low income neighborhood. All my friends were lame except for one who talked about wanting to go to Job Corps. He showed me a pamphlet and I was like, I'll sign up. Went into it and here I am today, 15 years later, with a really good high-paying job. I came out of that. My brothers also went into it, and now my brother's a union electrician. I'm a union diesel mechanic. That program has saved the lives of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans since the 60s, dude. Now look, there's no apprenticeships anymore. So Job Corps for a lot of people was the only way you could get training in any trades in America. Outside of that, you have to go into debt to do a lot of fucking things. We're going to throw a lot of fake numbers out there, but Job Corps was such a good investment into the American public. They're going to say, oh, it's a waste of taxpayer money. We use this amount of money for this person. Oh, it's like $80,000 over the course of a year to have this person in this program. This program is strictly for low income families. That's it. So all these kids that are going into this program are learning trades that will be making them a lot of money in the future, which means they will be paying a lot of money in taxes, which means it's a good investment. The country's going to get way more back from these kids than they would have if they were just bums or working McDonald's jobs or whatever. And right now, I really feel for the kids who are about to be kicked out of these programs, because for a lot of people I know, because a lot of people I knew in Job Corps will be homeless. They don't have families to go back to. They don't have anywhere to go to. That was their housing while they learned how to do their trade, because Job Corps housed all their students. So these people are being kicked out into the streets. You know what the most frustrating part is? I put this in my Facebook page today and saying like, hey, this is happening. And the conservative members of that page came in and said, we don't really need the program. It costs too much money. And nothing in life is really free. Oh, it's only happening to like certain Job Corps and not these ones over here. Bro, that's like half the Job Corps. And honestly, Yeah, they're all pull up the ladder conservatives. Every goddamn one of them. They got theirs. All the future people. I hate these goddamn idiots.
They're closing Job Corps at the same time that they're having an enlistment shortage in the military. Job Corps has 119 centers nationwide. They serve about 25,000 students this year, but prior to COVID, they served about 60,000 students. Job Corps specifically makes sure that low-income people between the ages of 16 to 24 can learn a vocational trade. It makes sure that people that are most vulnerable have an employable skill that they can use in the real world. Republicans speak out of both sides of their mouths because on one hand they'll say,
electricians, plumbers, we need more of those in our country,
while also closing down the same program that provides those things. This is also a way of propping up the for-profit prison system. One of the main demographics that uses Job Corps are children or young adults that have court-ordered supervision or have a criminal record. The president said he wants to build more for-profit prisons, so now you have a demographic of people who can't learn a skill or a trade, also have criminal records and court-ordered supervision. Where do you think they go? The damage that this administration is going to do is going to be irreversible for generations to come.
Why are the Republicans shutting down Job Corps? Like, if you don't know what Job Corps is, it's something that, like, high school dropouts and young kids who, don't go to college can go to Job Corps and get trade trainings. Like, you can learn to work construction, you can learn to be an electrician, a plumber, those kinds of things in Job Corps. Like, you'd think these would be the kind of things that Republicans would be for. It's the trades. It's not even college. And it helps millions of kids. Like, of course, that's why they want to, destroy it, because it helps millions of kids. But I just heard Job Corps shutting down on Friday. And a lot of these people are like kids who went through the foster system and turned 18 and didn't have anywhere to go, so they went to Job Corps, so at least they could, learn a trade or something. And now they're not going to have anything. They're going to get kicked out of Job Corps probably before they get their degrees or whatever, or their certificates of their training, and they're not going to have anywhere to go. They're going to be homeless. This administration is just evil. Of all the shit our tax money goes to, why the cutting this and spending $300 million so Trump can go golfing?
The government don't gamble like regular folk. They just put a little more on whoever already win. And make no mistake, them closing Job Corps right now is them placing a live bet. If you look up why Job Corps is getting shut down, you'll see concerns around fiscal issues and safety. Let's deal with them one at a time so I can explain to you why they both. On the fiscal issues, Job Corps was federally funded, which a lot of people mistakenly think that to mean Job Corps was free. Nah, federal funding is an investment. Scholarships, grants are investments. And the moment that they stop being lucrative for the government, they're no longer going to place their bets like I was talking about before. The government ain't never did shit out the kindness of they mother. So when they say, oh, it's fiscal issues, what they really saying is, we can no longer exploit y'all, so your services are no longer needed. Now, second, on the safety note, is really where I feel like they insulting the intelligence, because what they're citing is 14,000 infractions, right? They're saying there were 300 cases of sexual assault, which I am in no way looking past. That is absolutely not okay. And they're citing 1,000 or some acts of violence or whatever it was. Since we talking about federal places being up due to misconduct, let's talk about the good old boys. In New Jersey, 460 officers faced major discipline from a range of misconduct, going from them niggas showing up to work on time to literal acts of domestic violence. And come to find out, the Attorney General reported that over 10,000 officers were investigated for their misconduct. So when we talk about federal places needing to be put on pause, for misconduct and shit, please do not insult my intelligence, bro. To pull all that shit back, and why what's happening with Job Corps is so important is because you now have a whole bunch of coming with 3 degrees with 20 years experience, and it's like they mad because they got all these degrees and all this experience, and now they just the manager of a department store, and it's like, yeah, that's a problem, but at the same time, you the manager of a department store, you still got something to give your kids some food. The people who needed that motherfucker, this leaves them without a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And those people are the people that Job Corps was producing. See, now we all peep game from the crooked politician who would just say, oh, now the answer to all this shit is to vote for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let this shit happen either. I got a problem with it. When the whole time their problem with it is that they not benefiting from the problem. But now we got a whole slew of content creators who calling them views instead of votes. But they on that same timing, man.
I keep trying to film this without getting emotional, but it's a little personal to me, so I'm going to get a little emotional. I'm also sick, so please go to SaveJobCorps.com. I cannot stress to you guys enough how important this resource is to young adults. As someone who struggled through my teenage years and just growing up in general, I dropped out of high school and I went to a similar program to Job Corps. The work group gave me the confidence to enter my adulthood. And I mean that very literally. I get really upset thinking about these students that had to pack up and leave within a day and have that stability stripped from them. Probably after struggling with said stability and guidance. So, yeah, please go to SaveJobCorps.com. It's so important to young adults. It really is.
This is what I mean when I say don't pay attention to what they're saying. Just pay attention to what they're doing. Pay attention to their actions. Now, for those of you who haven't heard or who haven't seen, they are shutting down the Job Corps program nationwide. If you don't know what the Job Corps program is, consider yourself to have a very fortunate upbringing. If you don't know what Job Corps is, you probably had a very fortunate upbringing or a decent upbringing. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, the Job Corps program was a program that was initiated all around the country. I know personally, growing up down in Miami, the Job Corps program was a very, very vital program in my community. What the Job Corps program did was provided an opportunity for kids and young adults up to about the age of 20 or 21, I believe. It provided them with a alternative to those who weren't necessarily able to thrive or function in a normal high school environment. Also, it gave an opportunity for kids who are homeless. It provided them an opportunity to get an education, to get their GED, to get their high school diploma. It also provided them an opportunity to learn a trade and get job skills that they could use to be productive members of society, to be productive members of the community. It also provided housing. Again, it accepted homeless kids. So what it did, some of these programs around the country in these Job Corps, it provided housing, provided food, it provided stabilization for these people's lives. And again, it provided an opportunity to let them become productive and learn skills that will make them able to earn a living and earn money. Now, in the beginning of the video, I said, don't pay attention to what they said, pay attention to what they're doing. It was funny watching the news last week, and with all this thing going on about Harvard, one of those things that the press secretary said, I won't say that lady name, one of the things that the press secretary was saying was how this current administration was going to take all the money that they were getting from these from Harvard and these other universities that weren't, quote unquote, willing to capitulate to what they wanted. They were going to take that money, those funds, and give them to trade schools and trade programs and redistribute it. Well, if that was the case, why are we shutting down a vital program that helped a lot of people, a lot of underprivileged people, a lot of people in these minority communities get those skills, get those trades that you were talking about, develop these necessary skills that they need to survive. So again, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do, and hopefully something happens. But if not, man, RIP to Job Corps.
This whole getting rid of Job Corps thing is a setup. It's just setup, bro. And let me tell you why. We've seen this play before. We've seen it a bunch of times. What happens to people when you strip away resources? When you limit people's options, which are already limited, by the way. You strip even more resources. What do you leave the people who need the most to do? This is a setup. If for whatever reason you don't think this is a setup and you think something positive can come out of this, please let me know. Please let me know, because I don't see it. I don't understand what the purpose is in cutting Job Corps, especially from those who need the resource. There's many people out there who can't afford college tuition. Y'all already make that high as hell. It's already expensive as hell to go to college, right? So now for people who like to attend Job Corps and enroll in that, they can't even do so because y'all want to cut the programs. What's the point? What's the point? I don't understand it. I don't understand it for the life of me. But like I said before, it's a setup. It's a setup. When people lose resources who are already limited in the resource that they have currently, what do you leave them to do?